with that being said, let's talk about love. Let's talk about, all kinds of love, but just with that being the topic, where does your head go?
So, I mean, it's a fascinating topic, of course, and you're absolutely right in the sense that it's essentially useless to try to talk to somebody about these topics unless you have some agreement on what these terms even mean, you know? And so if you're operating under the belief system or the understanding that there is a loving creator being that has like a personality and a character and nature, that being is going to have an opinion on what is loving and what is non-loving. And some of this can be observed or felt in the construction of reality, but also I believe we can tap right into this being directly and get an understanding about that. Now, I do feel there's a way to do that, but before I say what that is, imagine that possibility, right? Like, let's say you're in a relationship with somebody and there's some kind of disagreement about something, right? And you both sincerely want to find out the most loving answer, the way to resolve your situation, right? If you're tapping into the same source, then you can trust that there's not favoritism or that you're not being taken advantage of or whatever, because you're tapping into the same energy. And if you are the one that's in error in that situation, you can feel about that and accept it in a mature way and move on in whatever particular situation, right? So all that being said, the way I was taught to receive this being's love is that there's an equation, okay?
How were you taught? Like, was there a place you went? YouTube. Okay. Yeah.
I mean, because it sounds ridiculous, but I have no trouble saying it. There's a guy who claims to be Jesus, like the reincarnated.
Is this the
version.
Yeshua guy you were watching? Okay, I remember like 2018 we were camping. You were playing some stuff. Okay.
Yeah, I should say the channel is Divine Truth, and the guy's legal name is AJ Miller, and he's got like hundreds of hours of material teaching about the human soul, God, how to experiment with reality to determine if God is real or not. And everything he teaches or suggests really has nothing to do with his personal identity, right? So what he teaches and what I have found to be truthful in my own life is that there is a layering of emotions that prevent us from connecting to this creator being. And basically it goes like this. We change our beliefs in our soul to meet our surroundings, whatever that may be. So now, because we're out of vibrational harmony with God in this particular area, fear starts to build up over top of really it's sadness. So when we have to change our belief, that will initiate grief. And then over top of the grief builds up fear. And then we don't want to feel our fear. So we develop addictions to temporarily quench our fear. And an addiction can be anything from drinking coffee to having someone agree with you, you know?
Okay.
Or like hardcore drugs. Like it could be literally anything, you know?
I just think it's a funny example. Coffee or having someone agree with you.
Yeah.
The most prominent addictions.
Yes. And if your addictions are not met, then we experience anger. So how interesting to think that every time that you yourself get angry, that it's actually because you've put an expectation on someone that they have not met. Kind of interesting. If we're not able to feel out our anger in a general way or loving way, then the next level of that is apathy or depression. So like my advice to anyone that is looking to feel God's love or experiment with this emotions in their own life, to recognize wherever they're at in a particular situation and try to go to the next level down. So if you're constantly getting angry, try to get into your fear. If you're always in your fear, try to feel out your sadness. You know what I mean? And I think that it's when you cry and release grief, it's in that moment that you can ask God for her love, his love. And usually that in that moment, you're
they them's love.
The vibration will change, and then now you're able to receive like more information, and I believe gain in perception. I think there's all kinds of things that can be unlocked within the human body that we're not really fully tapping into. And I think that the more that we explore ourselves emotionally, I think that the higher our potential, literally the higher our electrical potential could be.
Yeah.
So real quick, I'll just say it one more time. It's working through everything is there's sadness at our core, then fear covers the sadness. We develop addictions to cover our fear. If we don't get our addictions met, we experience anger. If we're not able to feel our anger, we develop apathy. So if we find ourselves, and you can be apathetic in one area and not in another, right? So if you're apathetic about like the state of the world or your career or your love life or whatever, and this kind of stuff, I would encourage you to actually feel your anger. I'm a screamer myself. And what will happen is you scream for 30, 40 seconds, and then you might drop on the ground and start crying and release grief. It could happen that quick. You know, we make judgments about feeling our own emotions. You know, that guy's crazy, that woman's insane, don't go near them, they're dangerous. You know, it's really, as long as you're not freaking out in public, I think you're totally cool. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think emotion, literally the word magic, stands for energy in motion. So when we hold things inside of ourselves, we're blocking stuff up. And if I may segue into another area here, sexual attraction.
Yeah, I was hoping it would go here.
Yeah. So, okay, like sexual attraction is this thing that like the vast majority of us seem to experience. And yet no one really talks about it other than a way to market and manipulate people into purchasing products.
Right.
So obviously we know that this phenomenon exists, right?
Yeah.
Well, I have an interesting understanding of, I have a understanding of what sexual attraction may be. Okay. I think that when we develop these blocks, these little, like, call them like energy blockages in our spirit body because we're not in harmony with the creator, then, as I said before, our energy flow within our entire body is restricted, right? So when you come across another person who has, let's say, a sympathetic or corresponding blockage within their spirit body because they have a similar belief in their soul, that a kind of cord or of spiritual energy can develop between you. And actually it can be more than one cord. It can be many, many cords. And the more, so now, okay, you've got energy flowing, you're perceiving an energy flow in a spot where you have never perceived it before. So we interpret that. I believe this is what we interpret as sexual attraction.
Okay.
Now, that being said, I do believe there is like a real, genuine, honest love that is possible from within all beings. But I also believe we have soulmates.
Yeah.
And it's kind of interesting because very few people talk about this concept. But I do think it's true. And I think that the way we find our soulmate is by working through our emotional errors, sins, traumas, whatever you want to call them. And then we develop partnerships with various people on the way to finding our mate. So let's say you find yourself attracted to okay, I'll give an example of my own life, okay? Because this did actually happen to me. I was in a partnership with a woman for several years, okay? She did not know who her biological father was when we first got together, okay? During the course of our relationship, she found out who her biological father was. And obviously, as you can imagine, very emotional event to go through that, and met him and some of her extended family that she didn't even know that she had. So all these things are very, very emotional, right? So she's crying, sadness but joy, and feeling a bunch of stuff out, and there's feelings of sadness of not knowing who these people were that are so wonderful, but also joy of having new people in your life going forward, like all kinds of stuff's happening, Well, our relationship ended shortly after she found all this out. Okay. And okay, now fast forward to a couple of years later. I have reason to believe that the person whom I was told was my father is actually not my biological father. Now, if that's true, it's interesting to think that, hey, you know what? Like, I'm in a relationship with a woman who doesn't know who her biological father is. Okay. And then she heals this aspect of herself. And then all of a sudden our relationship ends because of a lack of attraction, or attraction changes, And so I think that's what happens. I think that as we have emotional experiences, that our band of vibration, or the quantity, or who we are attracted to, changes. And I believe that if you keep doing that, if you keep following that pattern, you eventually find the other half of yourself.
Okay.
And theoretically, the passion and attraction that you would feel for the other half of yourself would be of an intensity that you can't use words to describe. Like, I've got this thing where it's always bothered me, this concept of like I don't feel comfortable getting married to somebody if I know I'm going to be attracted to other people. And a lot of people just dismiss this topic, everyone goes through it, or hey, that's relationships take work and all this kind of stuff. It's like, I don't know if I buy all that. If I buy all that. I think that our sexual attraction is electromagnetic in nature. I believe that the vast majority of what we experience, or what we interpret as sexual attraction, is actually codependent emotional injury. But I believe that there is a true creative and loving force that resides within us that most people just aren't really tapping into.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, sometimes I just want to fuck. I've always found your views on this very interesting. I think the best I have in terms of what I've experienced in terms of gaining a healthier relationship with my emotional or sexual attractions has been this path of semen retention. And it's actually funny. The most watched clip from this podcast so far is the one little 3-minute clip of me talking about semen retention.
It's an interesting topic.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of people that are interested in it, and there's honestly not a whole lot of good stuff, good content about it on the internet. I find the content.
I mean, that's how you know that there's something there, right? If no one's talking about it.
Yes, I find it's not that people aren't talking about it. There's people that are doing it. It's just a lot of the same thing, and it doesn't go very deep. And I don't think there's a lot of charismatic spokespeople for the cause, if that makes sense. There's not a lot of there's not quite the vibrance of it. In that.
Yeah, well, because I mean, if you're just my off the cuff thing is because we're all sexually degenerated,
Yeah, well, I think that's the thing.
And no one's really pure enough to talk about this stuff in an honest way.
Yes, I agree. I think we live in a society where it's extremely hard to do that sort of thing, and it almost seems ridiculous and impossible to most people to retain ejaculation. It's one thing because a lot of the larger side of the community is the no fap people that are it's just specifically about not using porn. Right? And
is that what fat mean? I thought fat meant no masturbation at all.
Well, so the basic level that most people are using the no fap community for is just no more porn. But they're fine with masturbating outside of porn. Then there's the no masturbation at all, only sex. And that's what I think where most people are in that community. But then I think beyond that is the whole semen retention thing. And I think this kind of gets a little bit overlap with what you're talking about, at least with I feel like what your chunk of dialogue there was really about working through emotional issues and seeing what is it like you attract and what you're attracted to. And
literally people in your life will change, events, you'll be invited to different things. Even the things that you look at online will change.
Yeah. And I think that you're coming from more a perspective of reading your reality and deriving meaning from it. Like that's
there's no accents.
Right.
I don't believe in accents.
Right. And so I suppose my focus is a little more on this curiosity of being swayed all over the place, like in an uncontrollable fashion by the id or the part of you that just wants to fuck,
Yeah, I do.
And I think that we have we live in a society that does everything in its power to exploit that, because it's a very powerful force, and it's how we are getting money out of people. It's how we're getting attention out of people. It's how we're getting time out of people. It's how we are draining people of their energy until they're in their grave.
Yes.
And I think it's very difficult, like in my experience too, because I've gotten myself to 3 months multiple times. So I've experienced.
It's a good long time, man.
Yeah. And I would say I've got myself to a month a lot of times.
Yeah. The longest I've ever gone is 40 days.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
So
maybe 44.
I found once you hit the 2 month mark, I mean, even past the first month, but 2 month, 3 month mark, that's when you start to get used to it and you feel fine. And at that point, it will have to be a conscious choice for you to go back on it.
Yeah.
To disrupt the streak.
Yeah.
And I think when I've hit
now, are you with a partner during this time?
No,
so you're just not doing any. The material's not coming out of you.
Right. Okay. Now, there has been some times I've been on a streak where I have engaged in sexual activity and did not come. Like, I just stop myself.
You can be no fap and still have sexual intercourse with a partner, right? Isn't that part of it?
Yeah. So what I practice is specifically semen retention.
Okay.
Releasing under no circumstances. You're not even under sex.
Okay.
So, if I ejaculate from sex, that's considered ending a streak in my book.
Gotcha.
Now, a lot of the no fat people, they go, no, it's not ending a streak if you do it from sex. But I'm more focused on one, the controlling of that urge to have sex, and also, stemming from that, the urge to masturbate when you can't have sex. So that's kind of priority number one, is just the control thing. But also there's the physiological element of what not releasing your semen does to your body in terms of producing energy or freeing up the body to have a lot more energy, because it's not focused on regenerating.
I mean, stuff's happening for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I experienced these. I've done this enough to experience, like, no, this is not placebo. This is like really something going on here.
Yeah.
And
well, the material is supposedly very similar to our synovial fluid that runs up our spinal column and through our brain, right?
Oh, yeah. I've read things that are about sexual transmutation, and there being ways of non-ejaculatory orgasm for men, to where you can clench your muscles down there in a certain way when you're ejaculating to make that cerebral spinal fluid shoot up into the brain. Now, I wouldn't consider myself a practicer of that, and I'm not even trying to do that. But I mean, if anything,
you got to be really into your partner to get to that level.
Yeah.
And because your intention is going to matter, right?
Yes.
So it's not. I mean, if you're engaging in animalistic desires and just having a great time, you're not going to really be able to get into sex magic if that's like the nature of your relationship. But if you really do care and love your partner and are interested in like manifesting a reality together, I feel like that's where that stuff comes in.
Yeah, that would. I think that kind of stuff would have to come in a committed relationship where you are able to work on that. You can trust each other and have the shared interest in that. You can't be with no cum hungry whore. Some girls will be pissed that you'll never give them this.
I mean, look,
can think of a few.
I mean, look, I'm not a woman, so I don't know what it's like to receive, you know? I mean, I know what it's like to project, but I don't know what it's like to receive. I mean, it feels pretty good to project. I would imagine it feels good to receive, but I don't know.
Yeah. But anyway, I'm at a point with experimenting with understanding I don't want to end a streak, and then trying to find my boundaries. Like, is it okay for me to release during sex under any circumstance? Like, no. There's been a number of times I've regretted it. There's been one time I didn't regret it. I felt like I loved the person, and so I do not regret. I do not regret sex with someone that I feel wholeheartedly I love.
Yeah.
And to me, that's where I found the acceptable line.
Yes.
And I think that the practice of semen retention, once you get past that first month of your hormones going all over the place and you're becoming extremely horny and attracted to shit you normally fucking wouldn't be, like you have these waves, you're like, I'll fuck anything. But if you just push past it, you just just feel it, just let it go, let it move through you. You reach a horizon where it's like it's beautiful, calm ocean, and you just feel super confident, super solid, and your ability to discern emotion, like just emotionally in general, to feel your emotions purely, it seems so much more clear and less muddled and less cloudy, and you can feel and ask yourself, am I lusting over this person? Do I love them? And it's that answer is very clear. It's and I found, like, if it's a lustful urge, no. If it's a loving urge, absolutely. This is what this is for. And so I guess to circle back to the conversation, is that's
beautiful, by the way. I love that.
Thank you. Yeah, that's my practice in terms of
that's real stuff right there.
Yeah, of burning away all the dead wood in terms of that act of the law of attraction. You know, is getting rid of all the blinders and distractions and all the excess disruptory chemical things that are going on in people that are over sexed or over masturbating and engaging in this kind of thing.
But
overstimulated, that's the word, because it's not just the sex, it's also the neurochemical cheats that we use, like the caffeine, the people agreeing with you, or not the agreeing with you thing, but
they're addictions, totally.
Yeah, but the caffeine, the alcohol, the marijuana, all the things. Like, I think that these things are they're non-diegetic narrative cheats that we use to get a desired neurochemical reaction in us. Yeah.